Picture this, 1241, the dreaded Mongol Golden Horde, a seemingly unstoppable force, sweeps across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction. At the Battle of Mohi, the Kingdom of Hungary, led by King Bela IV, is utterly crushed. Their army, a collection of feudal knights, is no match for the swift, coordinated chaos of the Mongol war machine. The country is ravaged, its population decimated. King Bela IV flees, a king without a kingdom, watching his world burn. It was one of the most catastrophic defeats in European history. But this isn't a story of defeat. This is the story of one of history's greatest comebacks. It's the story of how a shattered kingdom rose from the ashes, and 44 years later, handed the Mongols their first major humiliation on European soil. This is the secret strategy that destroyed the Mongols in Hungary. During his painful exile, King Bela IV had a profound realization. He saw that the Mongols weren't just a barbarian horde. Their strength wasn't just in numbers or ferocity. It was in their system. Their victories were built on superior intelligence, lightning-fast mobility, and a unified command structure that feudal Europe simply couldn't comprehend. While European knights were arguing over honor and position, the Mongols moved as one devastating entity. Bela knew that to fight them again with the same old tactics would be suicide. He couldn't outmangle the Mongols, but he could change the entire battlefield. So, upon his return to a desolate Hungary, Bela IV initiated one of the most ambitious and comprehensive national reforms in medieval history. He didn't just rebuild, he reinvented. His first and most crucial project was what we could call the Invisible Fortress. The old wooden castles that had burned like matchsticks were gone. In their place, a massive construction program began. Stone fortresses, hundreds of them, rose across the land. But this wasn't just about building walls. Bela envisioned a network. Each castle was strategically placed, not just to defend a single town, but to support its neighbors. They became interlocking nodes in a kingdom-wide defensive web, designed to slow, trap, and exhaust any invader. This was a long-term vision. Bela offered land and titles to any noble willing to build a stone castle. He essentially crowdsourced national defense. This policy also centralized power, shifting it from the fractured feudal lords to the crown, creating a more unified and responsive military structure. The kingdom itself was being reforged, stone by stone, into a single, cohesive fortress. But fortifications were only one piece of the puzzle. Bela understood that the Mongols' key advantage was information and mobility. So, he set out to strip that advantage away. He launched a massive infrastructure project, building roads to connect his new network of fortresses. This meant his own troops could move faster, resupply more efficiently, and reinforce threatened areas with unprecedented speed. Simultaneously, he ordered a meticulous mapping of the entire kingdom. Every river, every mountain pass, every forest, and every swamp was documented. This wasn't just geography, it was strategic geography. He was learning his own land in a way no monarch had before, identifying choke points, ambush sites, and potential obstacles. He also established a sophisticated communication system, using a series of beacons and fast couriers to ensure that an attack on the border would be known in the capital almost instantly. The fog of war that had doomed him at Mohi was being systematically cleared. Next, Bela tackled the issue of manpower and tactics. Hungary's population had been halved by the first invasion. To rebuild, he opened the doors. He invited German, Italian, and other European settlers, skilled artisans and masons, to repopulate the devastated towns. But they didn't just rebuild. They rebuilt according to the new fortified model, turning every major town into a defensible stronghold. Then came one of his most brilliant and controversial moves. He looked at the Cumans, a nomadic people who had fled into Hungary to escape the Mongols themselves. Initially, relations were tense. The Hungarian nobles distrusted these skilled horsemen, seeing them as alien and untrustworthy. But Bela saw their potential. He understood that to fight a nomadic army, you needed nomadic tactics. He integrated thousands of Cuman warriors into the royal army. These weren't heavy knights. They were light, swift horse archers, the very type of soldier that formed the core of the Mongol army. He was creating a mirror image of his enemy's greatest strength, a rapid response force capable of harassing, scouting, and skirmishing in a way his feudal knights never could. Perhaps the most ingenious part of Bela's strategy was his plan to weaponize the landscape itself. He knew he couldn't stop the Mongol cavalry on the open plains where they thrived, so he decided to eliminate the plains. Under his direction, a massive feat of environmental engineering took place. Using a complex system of dikes, dams, and sluices, Hungarian engineers learned to control the waterways. They could, on command, flood vast stretches of flat land, turning firm ground into impassable swamps and bogs. The open highways for the Mongol horde would become a muddy, treacherous trap. The battlefield was no longer a static piece of ground. It was a dynamic weapon that Bela could shape to his will. For over 4 decades, Hungary prepared. A new generation grew up in the shadow of the Mongol threat, trained in a new way of war. They were taught patience, discipline, and resilience. The focus shifted from heroic charges to strategic attrition. The goal wasn't to win a single glorious battle, but to bleed the enemy dry, to make every step into Hungary a painful, costly effort. Then, in the winter of 1285, it happened. The Golden Horde returned, led by the brilliant and ruthless Nogai Khan and his general Talabuga. A massive Mongol army poured across the Carpathian Mountains, expecting another easy conquest. But the Hungary they found was not the one they had broken. It was a different country, a different world. As the Mongols surged through the mountain passes, they found them heavily fortified and fiercely defended. The easy entry they expected turned into a series of bloody, frustrating sieges. When they finally broke onto the Hungarian plains, they were met with an eerie silence. The villages were empty. The fields were stripped bare. Following Bela's long-established plan, the entire rural population had retreated into the safety of the stone fortresses, taking all their livestock and grain with them. This was silent warfare. The Mongols were an army that lived off the land, and suddenly, the land had nothing to give. Their famed mobility was gone. The once open plains were now a muddy quagmire, thanks to the strategically flooded landscape. Their horses, the key to their power, struggled in the deep mud, becoming easy targets. Starvation and disease began to set in, and all the while, they were relentlessly harassed. Cuman horse archers would appear out of nowhere, peppering their columns with arrows before melting back into the forests. Small Hungarian forces would launch lightning raids on their foraging parties, cutting down stragglers and disappearing before a response could be mounted. Nogai Khan's army was being dismantled piece by piece, not in a grand battle, but through 1,000 small cuts. He tried to lay siege to the new stone castles, but his siege engines, designed for wooden forts, were useless against their towering walls. The garrisons inside were well supplied and could wait him out indefinitely. Frustrated and with his army weakening by the day, Nogai was forced to do the unthinkable, retreat. But even the retreat was a disaster. Harassed every step of the way, starving and demoralized, the Mongol army fell apart. They were ambushed in the very mountain passes they had entered with such confidence. The hunters had become the hunted. Of the massive force that had invaded Hungary, only a fraction made it back. It was a catastrophic defeat, a humiliation that echoed throughout the Mongol Empire. They had been beaten not by a larger army or a braver warrior, but by a better system. The legacy of King Bela IV, once called the second founder of Hungary, is immense. His strategy was a paradigm shift in European military thinking. He proved that resilience, intelligence, and long-term planning could defeat brute force. He showed that a nation's greatest defense wasn't just its army, but its infrastructure, its geography, and the unity of its people. The lessons learned in Hungary spread. Across Europe, nations began to invest in stone fortifications and more systematic defenses, preparing for the threats of a new age. Bela's story is a powerful reminder that true strength isn't just about winning a single fight. It's about the patience to prepare, the intelligence to adapt, and the will to rebuild, even from total devastation. He lost the battle, but by learning from that loss, he ultimately won the war, saving his kingdom and changing the course of European history forever. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the past, and let me know in the comments what other historical comebacks you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.